Welcome to the FSB York and North Yorkshire podcast. All roads lead to business support and, of course, to York and North Yorkshire. Welcome to the York and North Yorkshire FSB podcast series supported by City of York Council's Economic Growth team. We know that many small businesses and the self-employed are on an ever-twisting, unnerving and uncomfortable road, and we're here to smooth out those bumps and turns with expert advice, insight and inspiration. The FSB are experts in business since 1974 and are the UK's #1 support organisation for the self-employed and small business owners. Let us help you achieve your ambitions. To talk to us about membership, go to www.fsb.org.uk/join us, and for more information about support from City of York Council's Economic Growth Managers, go to www.york.gov.uk. Today I'm speaking with Charles Fawcett, founder of Twisted Automotive, specialists for custom build recommissioned Land Rover Defenders, who's based in Thirsk. Twisted started in 2000 as a sideline repair business, and demand for their services grew. In 2008, the company went full-time with their iconic re-engineered Defenders and now deliver them worldwide. Twisted Group also has a specialist painting and dipping company based in York. Recent further growth has included opening a London showroom and introducing a new marine division alongside the automotive sector. Charles employs 35 people across the business, with an additional 15 in Twisted Marine, and is going to talk to us today about driving growth through innovation. So welcome, Charles. Thanks so much for joining us. Just tell me a little bit about you and your path into self-employment, please, and a little more about your company, Twisted. I know your dad was self-employed and you were interested in these Land Rovers from the age of about 11, but you've just built an amazing worldwide reputation and business from your part-time beginnings. So are you selling a bespoke product or a lifestyle? What's Twisted Group all about?
Thanks, Carolyn. The reality is, and I have to remind myself of this quite often, what we sell, there is not really a need for. The products that we create, there isn't a set purpose for it. But what there is an incredible passion for it. Our customers at some point feel the need to buy this product and see that we are able to create for them exactly what they want. It took us quite a lot of years to find our space and find our sort of USP, if you like. But in reality, the Defender is this wonderful, quirky vehicle that's incredibly analog to drive. It doesn't have driver aids. It doesn't have lane assist and parking sensors and similar such things. But it's this wonderful experience when you get behind the wheel. So we endeavour to harness that, maintain that, keep those quirks, keep I call them Defenderisms, but just make the vehicle better. It has to handle better. It has to stop better. It's got to turn better. It's got to park easier. It needs to be quicker. It needs to be quieter. And over the years, we've managed to build a team around us who all think the same. There is very little logic in the way we operate. If we were a production line, we could build them faster, we could stack them high, we could sell them cheap. That's not what we're about. This is a journey from start to finish. Typical customer is probably on a 13-month lead from when they think, do you know what, I fancy one of these, to actually agreeing to what we're going to build, because it's not an impulse purchase. It's led by the heart, but the head has a purpose for this vehicle, and it might be that they shoot, it might be that they fish, it might be that the kids have mountain bikes or they go skiing, or they want a school run vehicle. There's always a purpose. So logic does come into it, and over that 13-month period we hone in on what the customer really wants to do with this vehicle. A bit about the background. My family have always been self-employed. I was really fortunate when I was 6 or 7 years old. We moved to a a rented farmhouse, and we had loads of space around us. The place was ramshackle. The windows didn't seal. It had no central heating, but we played out constantly. My father was buying and selling quirky vehicles. He could never sell an Escort or a Fiesta or a normal car where there would be 10 more similar. He would always want to deal in things that are different. So I spent, from probably being 8 years old to 16 years old, I would drive everything he came home in, if he let me. I'd disappear off up the fields in all sorts of vehicles. And back then it was Shoguns, it was Troopers, it was Land Cruisers, it was Saab Turbos, all sorts of non-standard, non-typical vehicles. And having had that opportunity to be behind the wheel of all these vehicles and get to know them, I guess where I was fortunate is that was a time of analog vehicles. Every interaction with the vehicle had an output. It didn't do things for you. If you use the clutch wrong, the vehicle told you you're using it wrong. If you were hard on the brakes, something would lock up. You had to really, really feel your way into these things. And in the later years, we just grew this love of the Land Rover product.
Now, we know at the moment many small businesses are struggling to recruit and retain staff. Being an employer is quite a tough gig for many business owners, but I've noticed in all your social media and everything that your employees love working at Twisted. You've got an inclusive workplace culture. But how do you balance the rapid growth demands of the company and making sure your team are looked after? And I mean, I know you've recently moved to an employee ownership model at Twisted Automotive. What are some of your thoughts around that for our businesses who might be struggling to manage and grow their team and get that inclusive workplace?
I don't think I have an answer. I think people is everything in the business. I am probably not a very good employer. I'm probably very selfish in that I worry about my own issues in a working day, and I probably don't take on board other people's very well. I'm often told by my brilliant PA, Vicky, to go to the workshop and give everyone a cuddle, just give everyone a little lift. I think as an owner or founder or director of a business, you can get wrapped up in the commercial elements and forget about the people. So for me, I've got to constantly pull myself back and try and remember that everyone is there and everyone is doing their best. And I need to remember that without them, there would not be a business. An idea is only ever going to become a product or a business if you have people to take it forward. And I think it's probably fair to say if we've been in operation for 22 years and standalone with premises and staff since 2008, that's 14 years. It probably took me 10 years to find my team. There are people in the team now who've been with us for 10 or 12 years. They're part of the furniture. They're brilliant people. We love having them around. At times, I think we've been guilty of bringing in the wrong type of people, if I can say that. People who perhaps don't get the passion. They don't get the reason we do what we do. And then they might come in to try and streamline or to try and restructure or operate a spreadsheet. And the reality is the two are entirely separate. The management of the business is very different to the process of creating the product for the customer. And there are parts of the business you just have to let go and run themselves in their way. The moment you try and meddle and find efficiencies, that's when actually the magic starts to disappear. I go back to my first point. What we build, what we sell, the only purpose it serves is how it makes someone feel. And you've got to carry that throughout the whole process. So the guy that's building it's got to be passionate about it. The guys that are supplying the parts for it, the team that are managing the process for the customer, everybody's got to be on board. And this employment ownership for me, this was the right time because the team is the best we've ever had. And that's evident in that we haven't got any staff turnover right now. We're only adding to the team. But the reality is there wouldn't be a business or a brand or a product without these guys. So I'm just the noisy ideas person and often the grumpy one. These guys are the people that make it all happen.
I think that's really, really interesting. And, as a business leader and an employer, you obviously go flat out at what you do. And you've said that sometimes you maybe miss things, or you're not 100% sure you're doing the right thing all the time. Who do you really rely on most in those times of stress? And how do you manage those challenges of being self-employed and having the responsibility for this amazing team that you've built around you, and keep driving that passion forward into this purpose?
That's a good question. I think Philippa, my fiance, probably takes the brunt of my moans. I'm really fortunate. In the last year, I've been able to take on Vicky. She's my PA and absolute go-to. Vicky really is my work wife, and Philippa's my home wife. And they bounce off each other. They support me really, really well. Honestly, I think people think because you've got a business, you're automatically successful, automatically wealthy, and automatically happy and have things that they don't have. The reality is it's the loneliest, coldest, most miserable place sometimes. And the people around you, and I think I'm sort of looking around the building now, thinking of all the people that work with me. I think probably I could go to any one of them right now and have a moan, and they could have a moan, and we could find a solution. But that's because those people absolutely want to be there, and they are passionate about what we do. If they were just there for a job, that wouldn't work. So, I believe we pay really, really well. I believe we give extra support at times of need, and we are more of a family than a business at some times. And there are times when they fall out with me. I haven't got an answer to every question, and there are times when they win, and I have to accept that I'm just a person. And don't always get things right.
I think that's a really common theme I see with businesses, especially innovative businesses who have grown rapidly as well. So there's lots of things here that will resonate with our listeners as small business owners. And you're widely recognised as a successful entrepreneur, but I've heard you don't like to be labelled as that. Are you still a small business owner at heart, despite your successes?
Yeah, and I don't like the term entrepreneur, and I don't know why. It just doesn't seem to fit. I think I'm just doing something I love doing. I don't think I'm successful. I think we're on a journey. That journey will hopefully take us somewhere, so long as it continues to be exciting and interesting, and we deal with some cool people, and have as much fun in the process as possible. Then I think that probably is success. I guess I'm just not one for labels. It's a quirky, interesting little business, and I guess because we do something cool, there's two risks, I guess, and I found this when we were trying to build brand. In essence, you could go out and develop the most incredible product, whatever it is, and if you haven't any marketing and if you haven't a brand, the product quite possibly would never emerge. You can go and build a brand and not have a very good product. That's a very short-term view. I think over the years it's been effort into engineering, effort into brand, effort into people, effort into engineering, and when I say effort, that might be investment, that might be time, that might be attention. But the whole thing's got to lift itself up on all three of those pillars. If you forget one, miss one, ignore one, don't give one enough attention, the other sides will fall down. The risk with brand building is there is this natural reputation attached to that brand, and everything has to run with it. And I think there is probably a perception, because we've built this brand, and we, if we were to look on our social media account, we might have 3, 4, 500,000 likes or followers or whatever, and we might appear in many countries around the world in a little way within our little niche. It can look like it's way bigger than it is. And the risk with that is the customer forgets about the people. And so I think probably if we have a focus right now over the next 12 months, it's to remind everyone we deal with that we are people, and the people are what makes it happen. The brand is kind of secondary. We've created I think we've created a cool brand. And actually there's a lovely story behind the brand creation. We were operational for 7 or 8 years as Twisted Performance, and it was I think I created it in word art on the PC in my lounge one day, and I met this guy called Phil. I was introduced to Phil by a customer who came and had some work done on a vehicle. The customer was working with this chap Phil, and they were creating a brand selling bean bags. If they're listening, they'll know who I'm talking about. And Phil came to see me, and he said he creates brands. And we had a look around. I showed him what we did, and we had a really good conversation. He said, "Do you know what? This is really easy." He said, "Your product is incredible. We just need to make the brand sit next to it. This is in 2009." And he said, "I'm going to go off and I'm going to put together a proposal for you to elevate your business through brand." So off he went. And after maybe 3 weeks, I chased him up, and he said, yeah, I'll come back to you. Maybe another 2 weeks went past. I'm getting itchy feet. What's he doing? Anyway, he came back and presented to me. And what he presented was the Twisted logo, how you see it now, and a number of quirky, interesting advert layouts and so on. Sort of a suite of brand information, things that he intended running with. He gave us a slogan and what have you. And I saw this, and I was completely and utterly blown away. And I said, "Right, Phil, what's this going to cost me?" And he said, "It's £77,000. I didn't have £7,000, never mind 77. And I said to him, "Right, let's do it." I had no idea how I was going to pay him, but what he created gave me this unbelievable amount of energy, because I could see where we were going. And we scrimped and saved and sold things and did deals and managed to pay him to do this job. And that was the beginning of the brand as you see it now. But I think it would have been very easy. I had a nice little business. I had a few staff. We were turning over a little bit of money and making a living. It would have been very easy to say, "No, actually, that's way out of our league. I can't afford you." But it just had to happen. Those were in the days when I pretty much ran the business off my credit cards because I had no money. And so it was this wonderful time of juggling. And actually, we had nothing to lose because we had nothing. There was nothing we couldn't really fail. So it made us sort of sharp on our feet. And I had a rule that everything we did had to make some money somewhere. And as long as everything we did made a bit, we'd be all right. I don't think we even had a ramp on which to fit exhausts. The lads were on the ground and parking on these little ramp things that you reverse up onto. And it was probably the year after that I finally managed to afford a ramp for the guys. But we had this amazing brand. So it was a really cool time back then.
I guess it's about that balance of those building blocks that you talked about, the people and the product and the marketing and everything balancing together. But sometimes external things can throw that out of sync. So it's remaining true to your purpose and your passion and coming back to that. Do you think that comes naturally to you, or are you still always seeking advice and learning how to succeed? Is there a value in this continuous learning as a business owner?
That's a good question. There was a point in our journey where I took some advice. I spoke to 3 or 4 professionals, very well positioned, very successful professionals, and they all gave me the same piece of advice. And I disregarded them all, and I went with my gut, and it worked. I'm not saying I'm always right, because I'm clearly it's not possible. But sometimes you have to go with what you believe, not what you're told. You know what you're capable of. You know if you can make something work or not. And actually, I could probably see this every day of the working week. There'll be times when I'm talking to the guys and I say, "Oh, we're going to do this," and you can sometimes see them looking at you. Where is this going? How on earth are we supposed to make this happen? But I'm guilty of thinking that if I believe it can happen, it can. Sometimes these things can't, and I think the guys have learnt to sometimes actually disregard me, because the idea is so daft, so wacky, that it's just not going to happen. But they humour me through them all, and we manage to achieve some of them. But an individual knows what they can and can't do, and so long as they believe, then it'll happen.
I think we have a really special business community here, and the network across York and North Yorkshire. Does that help you? You've talked a lot about your individual ideas and your team in Twisted. How much do you rely on the business community here? Your business is worldwide, but what do you love about doing business here in York and North Yorkshire?
I think we don't tend to interact. We're guilty actually of sometimes thinking of ourselves as a bit of an island, and we're sort of stuck on that island. I haven't engaged. I haven't been to any of these sort of business networking events. Maybe I should have done, but I think where we're fortunate is our customers are our brand ambassadors. They've decided to buy into our brand by purchasing something we sell. And actually these people are able to buy what we sell because actually they are in some way super successful. They've done really well at something. So I probably would say I can pick the phone up to so many people from so many different backgrounds. There was a situation recently and I just needed a little bit of advice from somebody in a particular industry, and I was able to ring the man at the top of his game in that industry and have a 2-minute conversation with him. And that can really help. I met with a customer yesterday and he wanted to chat to me about a certain thing we were on with in the business. And I thoroughly enjoyed, we had an hour and a half and we were just throwing ideas around, just talking about what he was doing, what we were doing. And that can be invaluable. There used to be a company we did a lot of work with on the industrial estate in Thirsk. We've always tried to use suppliers as near to as possible. So while, I say we don't network, we don't go to events, but actually using companies locally, you naturally end up in conversation.
Just a different type of networking.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Ours is sort of, I think I'm guilty of feeling like I need to be at work every single day and therefore I don't get out to these events. But just talking with suppliers and talking with customers, you can learn so much. And I'd like to think we're quite approachable, and we probably could help a lot more people. Just allowing sometimes a business owner to vent, it can be quite useful.
Absolutely. We know that at FSB because that's what our members do. They contact us and give us offload the problems and share their problems, and lots of common problems come out, and obviously there's solutions that we can all find together. I just wonder, how can you maybe advise small businesses? You talked about who you reach out to for help, and it's often your customers or your suppliers. Why should small business owners not act in that way? Because we feel sometimes that our members are nervous of doing that, picking up the phone. They've got a brand persona, or they've got a vision of their business that they don't want to admit that they're having problems. How can you advise small businesses to get over that and to reach out?
I don't think I can advise. I don't think I'm in a position to. But I think I've never been afraid of looking stupid, and I've never been afraid of asking a daft question. And I think you can get a long way forward by just asking questions. we're all just people, and we all make mistakes. We all get things wrong. It can never go right every day of the week. And just being prepared to ask a daft question can get you a long way forward.
That's probably answered my final question to you already, and which is, what is your top tip as a business leader to share with our listeners?
Oh, I don't really have one. I think just you've just got to believe in your, whatever the vision is, you've got to believe in it. An example, and some people know about this, some don't, but I was asked to order, if I wanted to order some vehicles back in 2015, and that was by the manufacturer before they ceased production. I think that year we turned over about 4 million or something. We were busy. Our average order was relatively small compared to what it is now. And I think that year we churned through about 60 vehicles. So when I was asked, do I want to order some vehicles, I went to a meeting, and it was very informal, and a representative from the manufacturer was there and somebody from the dealership that we worked with. And they said, how many do you want to order? And I ummed and ahed a little bit. And in the end, I said, I'd like 240, please. So that was an order for, I don't know, 6-8 million quid or something. I didn't have 6 grand. I didn't tell them that. I just figured if we've got stock, we've got a business. If we haven't got stock, we haven't got a business. Production of the Defender was ending. We potentially were going to be a few years between the old Defender and the new Defender. The reality is we could always continue to work on customers' vehicles, but I love building them from new, and I love having a core product that we've started from the beginning with. And so we placed this order, and eventually it was confirmed, and then we spent 6 months going to market to try and find the money to pay for them. Then we needed to find sheds to put them in. But at no point did I doubt the decision. And while everyone around me thought we were completely barking mad for trying to do what we're doing, it is that has carried us this last 5-6 years since production end and has put us in a great position. So trusting your gut and just running with it, you can't really get it wrong.
Brilliant. That's a lovely end to the podcast. Thanks for your help.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Follow us at FSB North Yorks across our social channels for more business support from your local FSB team, and signposting to our wide range of partners, including funded support programmes and free one-to-one local business advisor support across York and North Yorkshire.
FSB. FSB.